In early 70s on growth hormones injections, now suffering adrenal fatigue. Any correlation? Any correlation with injecting growth hormones and adrenal fatigue, or any correlation between being 70 and adrenal fatigue? Terry, maybe clarify for me, but I'm going to answer what I think might be your question, and that is using growth hormones, injecting growth hormones does not solve the why as to what created the adrenal fatigue situation. And as a matter of fact, growth hormones can stimulate you in such a way that adds stress. And so if you don't have the proper nutrition for your body to respond appropriately to those growth hormone injections, you can actually make your condition worse. Okay, let's go down on, there we go. I was on high-dose prednisone to treat idiopathic thrombocytopenia for a year when I was 18 years old. I was never tested for celiac, but 25 years later, I was told I have celiac and have been gluten-free the last decade. I go through bouts of no energy, especially in the morning since the prednisone. Can I heal the adrenals? Yes. Stacy, start with the application of everything that we talked about tonight. And two, you might analyze the type of gluten-free diet that you're following. One of the reasons why I wrote No Grain, No Pain, and I'll put a link up to that in the feed here too. One of the reasons why I wrote the book was actually for celiac people. The celiac community, about 92% of them fail to fully heal or recover from the inflammation. And one of the reasons why is they do the gluten-free diet wrong. They avoid wheat, barley, and rye, but they're still being exposed to other grain-based glutens, and they don't even realize that those grain-based glutens are a problem. So they continue to struggle beyond their gluten-free diet because their gluten-free diet is incorrect. And so, Stacey, if you haven't read that and you haven't followed me for a while, I encourage you to read it. I think it'll help you gain a lot of insight into why what's happening is happening. Cortisol's high, it seems, at night, hard to sleep. So one of the things you can do at night to help with sleep if your cortisol is high is taking melatonin. And a lot of people don't really want to take melatonin because they think it's habit forming and could cause them to not be able to make their own melatonin. But there's a value to sleep above and beyond that fear. So if you're not, if the choices are I don't sleep versus melatonin helps me sleep, then melatonin might be the thing, at least in the short term, to help get you balanced back. But ultimately, and you can take other things as well. There are a number of different plant-based botanicals that can help, they can help with cortisol at night when it's high. Things like ashwagandha. That's one of the big ones. Ashwagandha can be very, very helpful at night. L-theanine, GABA can be helpful at night. We actually have a formulation called Ultra Calm. And so that's where when people's cortisol generally at night is very high, they're also very irritable and very amped up. And so Ultra Calm was designed with several ingredients to kind of help bring you back down a little bit so that you can fall asleep and stay asleep and get the benefit of the sleep. Because when you're sleep deprived, it's really hard to make a recovery. And sometimes it's a vicious cycle where you're sleep deprived because you're adrenal fatigued, but your adrenal fatigue is driving your sleep deprivation. So until you actually sleep, it's hard to come out of that. Again, just a vicious cycle. Karen asked about chronic inflammation with fibro. Yeah, I check into mold. If you've been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, I've seen some study reports where as high as 92% of patients with fibromyalgia have a mold problem in their home. You definitely want to rule that out if you haven't already. And if you've got any musty smells or history of roof leaks or water damage in your house, mold could be right up the alley of what's causing or contributing to your fibro. Yeah, so Vicky's asking, I go to sleep easily, but upon waking feel anxious. Could this be due to cortisol? It can be. You could be making too much cortisol. And so there are a number of reasons why that can happen. Part of it can depend on how you're waking. So a lot of people wake up too early and they stimulate their cortisol to go even higher by using like loud alarm clocks. It's actually one of the big culprits that I've seen in people where they use blaringly loud alarm clocks or aggressive wake-up tactics What I would encourage you to try if you feel anxious when you're waking up is try a natural sunlight alarm clock. And what happens with these types of clocks is they're like sphere clocks that sit on a pedestal, and the sphere is a light, and it's a yellow color, so it turns on initially. It's very dim, but so like let's say you want to wake up at 7. So at like 6:30, it turns on and it's really dim and light yellow, but as the time marches on, it emulates a sunrise, and so it gets brighter and brighter yellow color, and it can help you wake up very, very naturally without the alarm aspect. And so some people find that that's enough to prevent that from happening. But there's other reasons why you might be waking up anxious. It could be that you're anxious about going to work, or depending on what your pattern is in the morning. Some people are anxious about what the day holds for them. And then other people have, other things that can cause that anxiety. So there are a number of different things that can drive anxiety, but food allergy is a big one. In my experience, mold. If you're sleeping in mold, I know I harp a lot on mold with a lot of you guys, but if you're in mold and you're sleeping in a moldy environment, then you have something that is chronically stimulating your immune system and chronically putting you into a fight or flight state. And so when you do wake up, your body's feeling that, and it's alarming you to escape, to get out of the environment. So Cindy asks, how do you recover? You can't exercise much at all because your body's already stressed. Good food, rest. What type of exercise? How do we do enough without doing too much? That's a great question. The answer, no doctor can give it to you. Because exercise is done to tolerance. And so what I would suggest, when you're chronically tired like this, what maybe you used to be able to accomplish in your exercise, you're far away from that today, right? And so always err on the side of caution when introducing exercise to tolerance. Always do less than you think you might be capable of, and just to see how your body handles it. Right? And once you know how your body handles it, you can adjust incrementally up and or down depending on what that looks like. But you've got to take it very slow. My point is, when you're in adrenal fatigue, don't get in a big hurry, to try to ramp your exercise up too quickly. You've got to be super patient and take your time and be patient with yourself and give yourself grace. How do you get rid of BPA accumulation in the body? Well, the number one rule of detox, Morgiana, is to not retox. So quit exposing yourself to it is number one, and your body will push it out as time goes on. There are certainly things you can do to support your liver. N-acetylcysteine, glutathione, vitamin C are all good options supplementally to help support your liver's ability to detoxify. So you can attempt any of those things. Okay, let's keep going down on that left side. Dennis is asking, do psychostimulants cause adrenal dysfunction? Yeah, psychostimulants can certainly overstimulate your adrenals and put them in a position where they begin to wear down. And so, I'm not going to say that they're the only cause, but they certainly can contribute to it. I heard a doctor say that women who've had a complete hysterectomy or are postmenopausal have their adrenal glands doing what the ovaries used to do. This is correct. How can the stress created by that and the added hormonal stresses be overcome naturally? Well, you have to understand, if you've had a complete hysterectomy, you can never get the organ back, so there's always going to be a degree of loss there that won't be 100%. But you have to adapt your lifestyle so that there is, again, most people live their lifestyles in a position where they're overly stressed and underly rested, right? It's this imbalance between parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system dominance. And so you have to look at what in your life is contributing to sympathetic dominance, and you really have to take action steps to mitigate that. I mean, I can't emphasize that enough. I mean, that's what you can do. That's the number one thing that you can do. If you're doing that and you're still struggling, now there are a number of different botanicals that act as adaptogenic agents, and that includes adaptogens around estrogens and progesterones and adrenal adaptogens, and those things can be used, and you can work with a good healthcare provider who has a deep understanding of those things to help you make up the gap, so to speak, if you've had that hysterectomy or you've had, or if you're, post-menopause. But my opinion on post-menopause is it's not a disease state. Post-menopausal women can be just fine. If you've still got your ovaries and your uterus, you can be just fine. Yes, there is a natural decline in hormone output postmenopausally, but that doesn't mean it's a disease state. A lot of doctors try to treat that as if it's a disease state and think that by giving extra hormones, they're creating longevity for people. And some would argue that is to a certain extent true. I would argue that it's up to you to make those decisions and up to where your quality of life is as to whether those decisions are worth making for you. So, question on why can't my body not sleep or relax without background noise? It's been this way for 6 years. I have to sleep with an audiobook in my ears or sounds. It's that way for many people because the sound drowns out the thoughts. And this is true. I see this a lot. It's very common in women, where women generally are more cerebral. So at night, they struggle more with sleep than, say, men. Men just generally can move on and forget about things. Women are processors. Their brain has to process and think and think and think and think. And sometimes it's doing it subconsciously when you're supposed to be sleeping. And so that white noise, that background noise, or that audio book may be the thing that's distracting you from having to do the processing, which is really allowing you to hit a state of relaxation. Some people get the same effect through meditation, where they meditate themselves into that same kind of brainwave state where they can now fall asleep or prep for sleep. But I would argue that what you're experiencing with your audiobook is almost like a form of meditation. A lot of people don't recognize it as such, but it can have the same type of effect on brainwaves. Okay, let's go down more on the left. Can tapping help with adrenal drainage? Adrenal drainage, the adrenal glands don't necessarily need to drain so much. If you're talking about lymphatic drainage, I think tapping, where the benefit of tapping is, depending on if you're doing it properly, is you're actually hitting energy points on the body that can have profound physiological effects. So tapping can be a very effective adjuvant to helping with stress, and a lot of people have found tremendous benefit in tapping. I think it also depends on the individual, because some people try to tap and it doesn't work well for them. So is there a connection between adrenals and low immune system, blood sugar dysregulation, and low blood pressure? Yes, that's adrenal fatigue. What you're describing are the symptoms of adrenal fatigue, and the solution is starting with what I talked about tonight and really trying to embark upon many of those lifestyle changes first. Should you work on adrenals or thyroid first? Both. You should work on them both if you've got a problem in both, Nicole. I see this a lot in people. They make the mistake of piecemealing their choices, right, as to what they're going to work on. So, and I see this even with doctors. They say, work on the adrenals first, work on the gut first. Look, if you've got an adrenal problem, if you've got a thyroid problem, you've got a gut problem, you've got a muscle problem, there's no order. You work on them all. And so you prioritize them all because there's a problem in all of them. And so, the body works as a whole holistic unit. It doesn't work in pieces. So I think it's a mistake to just focus on one area and just work on that one area. I think you really have to address it all together. I like that. Hello from a semi-truck on I-80 in Pennsylvania. Mikhail. Thanks for tuning in, Mikhail. Why do I startle so easy that I get chest pain? Well, your blood pressure's going up, and it's probably putting pressure on your heart. Adrenaline puts pressure on the heart, and it can create chest pain. I also have very low blood pressure. So that may be it, is that you're getting that startle is easy, and so it's driving up that low blood pressure, and it's putting more pressure on your heart immediately, and that could be a reason why you're experiencing that. Can I take a supplement that has DGL, deglycerinized licorice is what I'm assuming that you mean if I have high cortisol? Yes, you can. But in my opinion, you should be having, if you've got an abnormal pattern of cortisol, you should really be working with somebody who understands, how to help that balance out. Because just taking DGL is not going to be a solution for anyone. So Magnus says, I have been feeling weird. I have celiac disease, and for 2 days now, my heart has been racing, but it's fine. Dizzy, and I have gastritis. I'm not sure I follow, but it's fine, dizzy, and I have gastritis. Can all this be my adrenal glands? The dizziness can certainly be your adrenal glands. The heart racing can certainly be your adrenal glands. It can be other things as well. Gastritis, you're eating something that's still irritating you, Magda. I don't know if you're following no grain, no pain, but again, because you have celiac disease and somebody with celiac do the diet wrong because they just never were properly instructed on how to do it, I would strongly encourage you to check out No Grain, No Pain. Hey, if you've got a functional medicine or health question that you'd like me to answer for you, make sure you send me an email, glutenology@gmail.com, and we'll do our best to create a video answer just for you. Have a great day.